Okay. Decreasing excessive media usage while increasing physical activity. Presented by Lacey Boxell, Sarah Jankovic, Marnie Skillard, Jacqueline, I don't know how to say your last name, and Olivia Taskoff.
Stravey.
Okay. Introductory research. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, childhood obesity is considered a public health concern because of its prevalence and adverse implications. From 1970 to 1999, the percentage of obese adolescents rose from 5% to 14%. This is concerning because obesity in youth leads to disease in adulthood. These diseases include heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and breathing problems. In 1998, still there. In 1998, Anderson, Crespo, Bartlett, Cheskin, and Pratt examined the relationship between body mass index, BMI, and hours of television watched per day among 8 to 16-year-olds in the U.S. They found that adolescents who watched more than 4 hours of TV per day had the highest BMI. The same study examined the correlation of physical activity and BMI, and results showed that TV watching actually had a stronger relationship to BMI than physical activity. Larwin conducted a single study research design, which was one of the criteria for this project, attempting to increase physical activity and decrease media usage by replicating the Larwin and Larwin study was decided upon because of its relevance to everyone. Being graduate students, fitting physical activity into hectic schedules can be difficult. Increasing walking seemed like an obtainable goal. The study was straightforward and easy to modify in areas where necessary. All group members were able to set up similar data collection and use a social media platform that would assist with inter-observer agreement by providing us with a way to monitor each other's physical activity. Okay, and then I just stopped sharing, right?
The primary goal of this study is to increase physical activity among the participant and increase the likeliness of her taking more responsibility to be physically active by walking or running. The secondary goal for the study is to reduce the amount of time she spent engaging in leisure activities, leisure, internet, and I'm so sorry. This is just not ideal. Leisure, internet, and phone usage. To achieve these goals, she was required to engage in walking and running in exchange for leisure time. To accomplish this, a contingency was set that you guys,
It's okay. What's wrong?
My dog keeps barking. Can you hear her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. To accomplish this, a contingency was set that accessing leisure, smartphone, and internet was dependent upon engagement in physical activity throughout walking and running specific distances. The Larwin and Larwin study involved a 14-year-old girl that had recently lost 30 pounds throughout dieting. Following her initial weight loss, she gained 10 pounds back during the 3 months before the study. She self-identified a need to increase physical activity to increase her overall health. She stated that she did not like exercise or physical activity and found both to be adversive. Her activities of choice were phone and internet usage. The data was collected during sessions at home on her tread climber. Results of the original study. The original study was conducted. The original study was conducted by Larwin and Larwin showed positive results. As this graph shows, during the baseline phase, the participant did not walk at all on her tread climber. During the treatment phase 1, she increased to an average of 0.98 miles. During the first 2 weeks During the 2-week phase, she only had 1 day that she did not meet her goal of 1 mile. 2 days she surpassed her goal. There was a clear increase during treatment phase 2. During this time, she averaged 1.81 miles. This phase lasted 3 weeks, and there were only 3 days that she did not meet her goal of 1.5 miles. 7 days she went over her goal. So participants and settings, all participants of the replication study were adult females. It is important to note that all participants were graduate students and must spend significant amounts of time each week working on reading and homework.
Just a second. My computer's being slow because it's on the presentation mode. When we do this for real, I'll have it on the slide already.
Okay, it's my turn, right?
No, I'm first, I think. Yeah. So should we just like say our ages and like where our walking primarily occurred, or like do you guys think we need anything else here?
I think if we just put the ranges, just our ages ranged from 25 to 40 years old, and we primarily, it seems like everybody pretty much, the primary walking was done during work hours into exercising or regular exercise schedules.
Okay. So I'll just say I'm Lacey Boxell. I'm 27 years old, and primarily the walking that I did occurred while I was at work. I work in a clinical setting for children with autism. So I do a lot of walking at work, but once I'm home, I'm mostly working on homework and don't have as much time for physical activity in the evenings. And then it will go back to Sarah. Sarah, do you want to trade spots so that you can just stay?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
So I'll go, I'm a 25-year-old female, and the most of my daily physical activity occurs during work, in community for community outings, at the gym, or at home.
Okay. I'm not muted anymore, right?
Right.
Okay. My name is Marnie Scalard. I'm a 34-year-old female. I work in a clinical setting where most of my walking occurs. I do take clients on hikes and community outings, and I also walk and run on trails and go to the gym.
My name is Jacqueline Stravey. I'm a 33-year-old female, and most of my walking occurs around my neighborhood, which is just a residential area.
All right. My name is Olivia Taskoff, and I am a teacher of record and a coordinator at an elementary school. We're a kindergarten through 8th grade charter school, and my walking is primarily done in my work setting, as well as when I get home, walking my dogs, and any other exercising that I do. And then our behavior definition. Okay, hold on.
Do you guys think that we should screen share the presentation like while we're each introducing ourselves? I feel like it would be better to have that off and just show ourselves while we're
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
introducing ourselves, and then just go back to the screen sharing once we move on, or once Olivia moves on to the behavior definition.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could see who's talking too. Like,
Yeah.
And we get to put ourselves on mute. Once we introduce ourselves, then we put ourselves on mute and goes the next person and then Olivia.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get it. Okay. Hold on, it's thinking. It's loading very, very slowly. Okay, the behavior definition. The target behavior to be increased was in physical activity, and this was going to be measured in distance walked. Running could also be counted, but other types of physical activities, such as lifting weights, was not counted as physical activity for the purpose of this study. The sole focus was distance walked. The target behavior for reduction is the leisure time spent on the internet or a smartphone, engaging in preferred activities such as viewing social media pages, chatting with friends, and watching videos. Time spent on the internet for school or work-related activities will not be counted. Also, while replicating the study, we did experience some problems with our definition of leisure and smartphone and internet usage that we will discuss later in the limitations section. In regards to the materials and data collection, pedometer was used in order to be able to track miles and link to Map My Walk app. The data collection forms were posted on Google Docs, so we were all able to easily access the data as well as communicate with each other regularly via text message. And collect on the data usage, we were able to collect computer with internet access. The other materials we needed was a timer to keep track of the internet and phone usage. The accumulation of distance was tracked via personal fitness trackers, such as the, oh my God, I forgot what it's called. We all had our own personal fitness trackers and measured to the 100th of a mile. In addition to the personal fitness trackers, or Fitbits, the data was uploaded to the social media platform mapmywalk.com. Each student then logged their daily mileage on a data sheet that was shared on Google Docs.
And for that, I put that because that is what we had originally planned to do, but I never ended up being able to get Map My Walk to work. So
Yeah, I didn't either. You want me to take that off?
I don't know, because like we put that in our protocol that was what we were going to do.
But
So
then can we put that in?
I think that the way that we're presenting this with basically saying it didn't work out for us is complicated enough without having to bring up.
Right.
Yeah, and we did mention in the limitation section that there were several things that like didn't work.
Yeah.
Like the technology didn't work how we planned. So I guess we did kind of mention later that
You're
didn't work.
saying, oh, I didn't download this app. I don't think that
Right.
that's going
I
to
downloaded it. I just never like I couldn't see what you guys did. It was like how Marnie said, like you can see like specific workouts, but not mileage. So it just didn't work out like I thought it would in the beginning.
You had to go around and play with it, and it was a pain in the butt because I did find out where it tracked the mileage, but you had to like, yeah, it was like it felt like it was a back door that you had to go into versus like the Fitbit. I could just like look at my Fitbit, you know, that was so much easier for me to pull the data and everything than it was on
I did
the Map
all
My Walk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I feel like we can leave it in there, but I never did that. I never got it to work.
Which, yeah, like you said, we can put that in the limitations.
Okay.
Or we could talk about it. If you couldn't get it to
I
work.
feel like she will mark us off though for that because that's something that we kind of could have troubleshooted a little bit more, and then she's gonna be like, "Oh, well, that's all of your like treatment fidelity." Just like not.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, but then that's
Also just not mentioning it, like not going into detail about it, and
That sounds really bad, but I really don't think we should mention it.
Okay.
But you know what? But that's one of the things, if we're doing a replication and it wasn't as easy, just given different environmental events, we weren't able to, technology, I mean, then that could be a limitation as well. The technology was something that inhibited us from doing it, even though we had it in our protocol, where we weren't able to do it like you would in a regular study and stop and reevaluate and pick something else. That just wasn't feasible for us. So I think we could still leave it in there. And if it does come up, touch on, well, we weren't all able to end up syncing and not everybody had a Fitbit because, I obviously just forgot what it was called.
I mentioned in the limitations that we had troubles with the technology. So I guess if she wants details about it, she can ask. Otherwise, we can just kind of like skim over it and say that there were issues with the technology, but not really.
Right.
Said that we should leave it out too, because that's something that we can control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we said earlier, like we could have screenshotted pictures or whatever if we had.
Yeah, and obviously we weren't like very
do that.
worried about each other's fidelity. So I mean, I just don't want it to be an error on our part, like her being like, well, it was something that you also that points off for you guys.
Okay, so we just won't say anything there. In the limitations, we'll just mention we had issues with technology. But we did have a lot of issues with technology, like batteries dying and, so we don't have to go into detail about it. We can just kind of say that there are issues, but not say exactly what they were. I'm fine with that.
Cool.
Unless she asks, I guess.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Okay. The baseline and treatment phase. Changing criteria and design was used. A baseline phase was conducted where data was collected on the number of miles walked each day without any reinforcement. There was no set amount of time that was required to walk or distance that was required during this phase. During treatment phase 1, internet usage became contingent upon miles walked. This was earned at a rate of 1 hour of internet usage for every mile walked. During treatment phase 2, internet and phone usage were both contingent upon miles walked. These reinforcers could be earned in an hour and a half increment for the first mile and a half, and then half-hour increments for every half-mile walk beyond that. To ensure inter-observer agreement throughout the study, group members utilized a personal fitness tracking device to track the distance walked per day. Using the tracking devices ensured accurate measuring of distance walked per day, thus decreasing the potential for human error in data collection. In addition, each participant shared their data among the group via the Map My Walk app. And I'll go ahead and put end data sheets on Google Docs. Participants were required to check the app 3 times per week. This allowed participants to monitor the amount of reinforcement that was provided and ensure that it was provided accurately. In the future, improvements could be made to confirm the accurate recording of reinforcement time. Suggestions include having a third party collect IOA data on leisure time and internet and phone usage, or downloading a parental guidance app to track time spent on specific apps.
Okay, treatment fidelity. Our implementation of it, our group checked in 3 times weekly, and this allowed the participants to discuss fidelity. Each participant was encouraged to refer to their procedural protocol, often to present observer drift. What we found was that confirming treatment fidelity proved to be difficult while on an online class, in that there really wasn't a way to monitor how much media usage each other was participating in. We kind of were on an honor system, and then we also had a log where we each logged our daily media use. Future improvements to kind of compensate for some of these fidelity issues that we ran into were that we could possibly require weekly observations by a third party that would sort of add, to serve as a trainer to check in with each group member and go over weekly results, and just have kind of more of a, oh my gosh, I have to think about what exactly I'm going to say here. But yeah, require weekly observations by a third party, and yeah, I'm going to have to go with that. Sorry, guys. All right, so here's the graph for my personal miles walked. I actually found that this was, this particular study kind of, there were a lot of confounding variables in my personal experience of replicating this study. For one, having my cell phone as a tracker, for me, my pedometer didn't get turned off every time, and so sometimes I would track the miles that I drove to work, or I would have to delete whole days because of inaccurate data for something like this. And in future, actually, I probably should have estimated what I had run that day instead of just deleting whole days, and so my data would have been more accurate. Sometimes I would lose signal and the miles wouldn't get tracked. And also for me, I ended up getting sick 2 weeks out of our experimental time period. And you know, so it wasn't really a good example of the possibility of effectiveness of this study under normal circumstances. So that was one confounding variable. It was also really hard for me to track my own media usage accurately, because sometimes I would be working on projects for school, and then it would bleed into other uses for media, and it was kind of hard to get a really accurate data read for that. So as far as average and range are concerned, my baseline started at 0.69 miles as an average, and my range was 0 to 3.1 miles during treatment phase 1. It was 0.23 miles, and my range was 0 to 1.63. During treatment phase 2, it was 0.53 miles, and it ranged from 0 to 0.67 miles. So actually, for me, my walking went down during this study, so it didn't prove to be very effective for me. But like I said, there were a lot of confounding variables.
Hi, and when you look at my graph, my baseline is actually a little bit skewed, because on those days where I had the greatest increase, and if you look at day 4, 5, 6, and 7, I was actually on a workshop. I was at the inclusion workshop in Indianapolis, so I had to do more walking. When it came to treatment phase 1, I feel that even though I had dips, those dips were due to case conferences and students and behavioral issues that occurred, as well as we have a new principal that started. So there was a big transition phase that was going on. So the data isn't as consistent, but you can see that there is a steady trend of increasing overall. And then going into treatment phase 2, it was very sporadic, because I had students that were my general group of students that I work with went to a field trip where they were gone for 2 days. It's Frog in the Bog. And then my other first grader that I work with, he was on a field trip. I got sick. So there was a lot of other outside events, some confounding variables that affected my data as well. The overall average of my data showed that between the baseline and treatment phase 2, there was an average increase, and then just a slight decrease between treatment phase 1 and treatment phase 2. And you can see that baseline data showed that I was at 2.29 miles, and there was that steady increase, and I was on an average at 3 miles every day, and just a slight decrease between treatment phase 1 and treatment phase 2.
Jacqueline, I think you're still screen sharing.
I am, but I was on mute. Were you?
Like I could still see the whole screen, like everything on your screen.
So you didn't see my data?
I could see yours,
on
but I
the screen?
saw Jacqueline's too, like your Word doc and everything. Like everything was like, for some reason, mine was showing like Jacqueline's screen.
Okay.
Did you click on my face?
I don't know. I was like on yours, Olivia.
You have a white box around my face. You clicked on my face, so unclick it.
Okay, I was on Olivia's for her. I think it like was like, because I think you have to stop screen sharing, right, when you're done, or else it'll like show both of them.
Even if you're still screen sharing, it should only show it down like in the little thumbnail. I saw Olivia's the whole time she was presenting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As long as you're muted, you won't be big. And I don't think it matters like what the thumbnail is, like whether it's you sitting there or the screen share as we present. I would just say that if you have it be you, like when we're doing the actual presentation, don't like, be like drinking tequila or something. Like other than that, like I don't think it really matters if you stop screen sharing or not.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
The tequila drinking only happens after we're done.
Yeah, or when you're screen sharing when they can't see you,
Together, and in conclusion,
That's
right.
Cheers.
That's perfect. In conclusion, cheers. I like it.
Right.
So here's my graph. I haven't really written up anything what I'm going to say yet. I found that there were a lot of confounding variables that affected how many miles I walked. I definitely didn't have stable data throughout any of the 3 phases. I think that it was more just due to life factors than implementation of the experiment. I had several days that I forgot to wear my Fitbit, and so I didn't get accurate data on those days. And there were a couple of days that I was sick as well, so my data is not particularly accurate. As you can see, my average miles walked actually went down from baseline to treatment phase 1. But then there was a slight increase from treatment phase 1 to treatment phase 2, which again was due more to life factors than the actual treatment.
who's next? I think we lost Marnie. Yep, we lost her.
No.
That's not good.
Yeah. I would say if this happens during the presentation, just move on to whoever's next.
Okay.
And like whoever's next can just say, due to technical difficulties, it looks like we lost Marnie. She'll present.
Or what we could do is, so that we do present her, just have somebody read her stats.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that too.
I don't know what we would say, but.
Well, you know what? She typed hers up on the outline.
Okay.
So even if she gets knocked off, we can just read and say, to ensure due to any technical difficulties, if someone drops off, we all had it typed up. I mean, you know, just because she seems to be the one who kind of, her internet keeps going in and out on her.
Yeah.
And then just to read off of there, because she did type hers in.
Okay.
And then same thing, I mean, even if it happens during the recording, whoever, how do we want to do it? Whoever's next to just pick up wherever she was?
That's fine. That's fine with me.
So it'd be B. Okay. The version I have of the outline, of course, doesn't have her thing on it. So I'm going to have to just like read it off of whatever. Or should we just pretend that we did hers and then?
Yeah. For right now, let's just skip on to yours, Sarah, and then when she comes back, she can do hers if she wants to.
Okay.
Hopefully this doesn't happen during the recording.
Should I invite her again?
And she should be able to just log back on and join, I think.
Right.
Okay. So for my data, my graph showed that my physical activity actually decreased throughout the study. Treatment 2 was almost equivalent to my physical activity level in baseline. Some of the factors that contributed to my fitness level was that I was not extremely motivated for media usage time, which is why I believe that my activity level didn't significantly increase throughout the study, as well as sometimes my Fitbit had died and I had to charge it throughout the day, so it wasn't tracking all of my miles walked. In addition, during treatment 1, I started a new job, which required me to sit for long hours of the day. So that had contributed to it. I had orientations, trainings, and observations. So as you can see, in baseline 1, my average was 3.55, and my range was 2.58 to 5.03, which was pretty similar to treatment 2, 3.29. My range was 1.80 to 4.13 miles, and then my treatment 1 had dropped the most significantly. It was 2.99 for average, and my range was 1.83 to 4.54.
Okay.
Marnie, we just skipped your data for right now and had Sarah go ahead. If it happens during the actual presentation, would you rather have one of us read your stuff or skip you and wait until you get back and then have you do it? Like if you have it written up, one of us can just read it.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, let's do that if it happens. It's been happening like when I'm on my computer for a really long time. I've like pretty much been using my computer since 7. So hopefully when we record it won't happen, but do you want me to go ahead and do it now, or?
If you want to practice, you can.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay, this is my graph. It does depict that the treatment increased my physical activity in the second phase. However, there were other variables that affected my data. Most of it was just my physical abilities at the time. I am an endurance athlete, and I would typically log 60 to 70 miles per week just in run training, but I've been injured for a while. So before baseline, I was injured, so I wasn't able to run. And throughout the treatment with physical therapy, I started getting a little bit more activity where I could run and it wouldn't hurt my hip as much. Also, throughout the treatment, the only forms of exercise that I was cleared to do were cycling, swimming, and weight training, which were not in our behavior definition. So I think that, the purpose of the study was to increase physical activity, and I likely could have done that, but I wasn't tracking those as they weren't in our behavior definition, and I just wasn't able to do a lot of extra walking or running. So all the data that I have is pretty much just my my daily activity, walking around at work and at home, and just getting from point A to point B. It wasn't really going out of my way to go on walks or runs. So that was one of the limiting factors for me. Another one was my motivation for media time. The original study had an adolescent girl who was earning time for media usage. And for me, I just had those blurred lines with, was my media usage pertinent to my job or my schoolwork at the time, or was it more social and fun time, and some of it just blurred together, and it was really hard to track it with a timer, when one stopped and the other began. And I wasn't as motivated to earn TV time, because I think that's more applicable to younger participants who maybe live with their parents, but as an adult, you're kind of able to watch TV whenever you want to without any consequences. So that was my data, and I'll show my averages and ranges. For baseline, my average was 3.18 miles, and my range was 3.83 to 2.48. Sorry, I think I should have those flip-flopped. I'll fix those. Treatment one was, my average was 3.11 miles, and my range was 0.64 to 5.73. And in treatment two, my average went up to 3.97 miles, and my range was 2.5 to 6.37.
Okay. Okay, so these are our group results. We found that at the end of our study, only one participant had increased in mileage in the miles that they walked from baseline to treatment phase one, and we found that only two participants increased from baseline to treatment phase two. Overall, there were a lot of limitations that prevented our participants from recreating the positive results of the original study. So we're going to talk about that. All right, so some of our limitations: problems with pedometers or technology usage in general. So we had some people that experienced devices with batteries dying, forgetting to wear devices, forgetting to turn off the mileage tracker, as I had said I personally had. We actually had at least two of our participants undergo illnesses. That was, a confounding variable that didn't really give us the opportunity to show what this study could do if we were all healthy. We had, basically, there was no reliable IOA for our leisure internet and phone usage. The age difference of replication for participants versus original participants basically created a lot of limitations as far as, as some of our participants had said, that, there was really nobody there to limit our usage of media. There wasn't the same sort of motivation for media usage that there would be for a high schooler or a 14-year-old girl wanting to have that as a reinforcement. Also, we found that there's a lot of different needs for adults using internet and media usage. It was wasn't really clear as to what was leisure and what was necessary. We use media. One of the things that was spoken about in the original study was how she used her media to interact with friends, but we use texting to interact with people in ways that have more of a necessity sort of element to them and not so much a leisure element, but then it can bleed into chatting about other things, which could be considered social. So it was just really kind of unclear. Also, and so that kind of goes into the last thing, which is the operational definition of leisure time. It wasn't really clear as to what was leisure and what was, work or school oriented. And sometimes as adults, certain things are not work or school oriented, but they're not necessarily leisure either. Whether or not you're asking a roommate or a spouse if they're going to bring home groceries and then asking them if their day's okay. And then, it turns into something else. It just kind of wasn't exactly clear. So we kind of ran into a lot of things there. So in conclusion, we really found that it was hard to replicate this study for us, and our results were kind of inconclusive. So there were definitely a lot of limitations, as we discussed. We did realize that we gained experience in trying to replicate a study and figuring out all of the different elements that are involved in that. We did think that the original study was very well done, but one of the reasons we thought it was so well done was it was a single subject design, and that's not something that we ended up being able to participate in as a group because we're more than a single subject. So we actually thought that something that would have been cool was if we had sort of taken this design and then created a contingency contract that would have applied in a more meaningful way to each one of us. And that way we could have sort of highlighted what would have been more motivating, if media usage would have been more motivating or what kind of media usage. It might have been a little more effective for each one of us. We did realize that we got a lot of opportunity to problem solve, and that there were some of the limitations that we knew right away were that we, being in a online study course where we're all living so far away, having to figure out ways to try to come up with the best IOA and the best fidelity for our situations. We were trying to come up with, pedometers that we could link in a way that we could all monitor. And we thought that that was a pretty good idea at the time, but it ended up being that the electronic devices had a lot of limitations and they presented a lot of confounding variables. One of the things that we discovered was that everyone was really flexible in our group. We worked well together. And we really overall gained a better understanding of the complexity of implementing a study and how many things can get thrown in there that we didn't expect. So next time we'll probably have a better experience overall because of the experience that we had this time around. So that's pretty much the conclusion.
Okay, I think we did good when we go to actually record it. Just maybe the only thing I can think of is just us keeping the flow. If you guys get a chance, watch that other video. So I don't know if they did any recording and just kind of pieced it together or what,